Chioma's days began before dawn, but not with hope, only the heavy silence of a home where love was absent. Her stepmother's eyes were cold when they met hers, like a storm waiting to break. Each breath Chioma took felt heavier, burdened by whispered insults and harsh chores that never ended. "You're lazy," her stepmother would snap, too foolish to deserve food or rest. Meals were scarce, and when Chioma dared to let her mind drift to the songs inside her heart, she was starved, not just of food, but of kindness. One evening, after a long day scrubbing floors and carrying firewood, Chioma crept to the small window, listening to the distant melodies of a village festival. Her heart ached for just one moment of music, to let her spirit breathe. But her stepmother's voice shattered the silence. "Why waste time dreaming? You'll never be more than a servant here." Tears burned but did not fall. Chioma tucked her dreams deep inside, swallowed the hunger pounding in her belly, and prepared to face another day where her worth was measured by suffering. Weeks passed, and hunger became Chioma's constant companion. Her stepmother's cruelty grew sharper, each refusal to feed her was like a needle piercing deep into her soul. The once lively girl now moved silently, her ribs visible beneath thin, warm clothes. Yet, even as her body weakened, her spirit fought to survive. One afternoon, Chioma begged quietly, "Please, may I have some food?" But her stepmother only sneered, "You waste time dreaming about singing when you should be earning your keep." Without food, Chioma's thoughts turned darker, but the songs inside her heart refused to die. She crept to the village market, watching others eat freely, their laughter a painful echo. Driven by hunger and despair, she began to ask strangers for scraps, clutching her empty stomach and swallowing her pride. Some turned away, some sneered. But an old woman noticed the sorrow in Chioma's eyes and quietly handed her a small piece of bread. That single act of kindness lit a fragile flame of hope inside Chioma. No matter how harsh the shadows at home, there were moments of light, glimmers she clung to like lifelines in the storm. That fragile flame from the old woman's bread flickered weakly in Chioma's chest, but it was enough to keep her going through the endless nights of knowing emptiness. Back at the hut, her stepmother's gaze sharpened, as if sensing the spark of rebellion. "Where were you?" she demanded one evening, her voice laced with suspicion. Chioma, too weary to lie, murmured about fetching water, but the truth hung unspoken between them, the hunger that drove her to the streets. The maltreatment deepened like roots twisting in soil. Chores piled higher, scrubbing the yard until her hands bled, fetching water from the distant stream under the scorching sun, all while her stepmother lounged and whispered to neighbors about Chioma's laziness. Meals, when they came, were scraps meant for the dogs, stale cassava that Chioma shared with the stray moth who became her silent friend. "At least you don't judge me," she'd whisper to it, tears mixing with the dust on her cheeks. But the songs, oh, the songs were her secret rebellion. In stolen moments, when the stepmother dozed, Chioma would hum softly by the fire, her voice trembling with the pain she couldn't voice. Each note was a cry for freedom, a thread weaving through the despair. One day, as she sang to herself while pounding yam, her stepmother burst in, eyes blazing. "That noise again. You'll starve for it." And she did, locking away the last bit of food, leaving Chioma to curl up in the corner, body shaking from hunger, heart aching with the weight of dreams denied. Yet, in that darkness, Chioma's resolve hardened. The streets called to her not just for food, but for escape. She began sleeping out more often, begging with downcast eyes, her voice reduced to pleas that tore at her soul. A kind trader slipped her a mango once, its sweetness a brief burst of joy amid the bitterness. "Child, why such sadness?" he asked. Chioma could only shake her head, the words too heavy to share. Little did she know, these quiet encounters were planting seeds of change, far from her stepmother's reach. With each day on the street, Chioma learned more than just how to survive hunger. She discovered the power of kindness hidden in unexpected places. One rainy afternoon, soaked and trembling, Chioma sat at a market corner, empty-handed and so weary. Hunger gnawed deep, and tears blurred the faces of rushing strangers. Out of the crowd emerged a gentle woman with eyes like warm sunlight. She knelt beside Chioma, offering her a wrapped bundle of food and a soft blanket. The woman's voice was calm and steady. "You don't have to walk this path alone, child." That moment shifted everything. The woman, a local teacher, invited Chioma to her home, fed her without judgment, and listened, really listened, to the stories hidden behind those tired eyes. For the first time, Chioma felt seen not as a burden or a servant but as a fragile soul worthy of care. When news of the kind woman's help reached the village, Chioma's stepmother scoffed with disbelief and scorn. Helping a beggar. What would the neighbors say? Yet, she underestimated the strength blossoming in Chioma's heart, watered by kindness and courage. This new bond ignited a flicker of hope inside Chioma. She began to dream not just of singing, but of a life where she could rise above the pain and the hunger. The stepmother's cruelty still lingered like a shadow, but a brighter light was beginning to glow, even where it was least expected. The warmth from the teacher's home wrapped around Chioma like a long-forgotten embrace, but it couldn't fully silence the echoes of her stepmother's cruelty that still haunted her nights. Each visit to the teacher meant risking more punishment at home, stolen hours that left Chioma rushing back to the hut, only to face the storm of accusations. "Where have you been, worthless girl?" her stepmother would hiss, the words slicing deeper than any knife, forcing Chioma to lie through trembling lips while her stomach twisted in fear and guilt. The maltreatment didn't ease. If anything, it intensified, as if the stepmother sensed the fragile wings of hope Chioma was beginning to grow. Chores doubled, washing clothes in the icy stream until her fingers cracked and bled, tending the garden under the relentless sun while her stepmother watched with a smirk, denying her even a sip of water. "Dreamers like you get nothing," she'd say, locking away food and leaving Chioma to collapse in exhaustion, her body a map of bruises from accidental shoves and slaps. The hunger returned in waves, sharper now, mingled with the ache of betrayal. Why did the world allow such pain for someone who only wanted to sing? Yet, in the teacher's quiet lessons, Chioma found a sanctuary. The woman taught her not just reading and songs, but how to nurture the fire within. One evening, as rain pattered on the thatched roof, Chioma poured out her heart, the endless belittling, the nights called up starving, the way her stepmother's laughter at her pain made her feel invisible. Tears streamed down her face, hot and unrelenting, as she whispered, "I feel broken, like I'll never be whole." The teacher held her, saying softly, "Broken things can be mended stronger, child. Your voice, it's your strength. Let it heal you." Emboldened, Chioma began practicing her songs in hidden corners of the market, her voice a tentative whisper at first, then growing bolder. Strangers paused, drawn by the raw emotion in her melody, a lament for lost innocence, a plea for freedom. Word spread quietly through the village, whispers of the beggar girl with the golden voice. Chioma's heart swelled with a mix of terror and exhilaration. For the first time, she glimpsed a path out of the shadows, even as the weight of her stepmother's control pressed harder, threatening to snuff it out. But deep down, amid the fear, a quiet determination rooted itself. The pain had forged her, and she would not break, not when light was so close, flickering just beyond the horizon where her stepmother could never reach. The day arrived when Chioma stepped onto the dusty village stage, trembling but unyielding. The crowd that had once ignored her hunger and pain now leaned in, drawn by the rare beauty and truth in her voice. She sang not just to entertain but to tell her story, the nights of hunger, the cold cruelty of a home without love, and the fierce flame of hope that refused to die. Her stepmother watched from the crowd, face ashen and silent, unable to deny the light that radiated from the girl she had tried to break. Whispers spread like wildfire. The beggar girl was now the village's shining star, her voice a balm for many wounds. As Chioma sang, she felt the weight of years lift, replaced by the promise of a new life, one where she was valued, seen, and free. The kindness of strangers, the teacher's unwavering support, and her own unyielding courage had carved a path through darkness. When the song ended, the applause was thunderous. Chioma's eyes searched the crowd, and for the first time, she saw not scorn but admiration, and a stepmother unable to hide regret. Chioma smiled softly, her heart full not of anger, but of peace. She had risen above the shadows, not just surviving, but shining, proof that even in the deepest darkness, the human spirit can find its light.